Hey, it's Drew Neiser with another Tuesday tip. We've been talking a lot about the challenges that marketers are facing, getting really good quality content out there, measuring that content, and so forth. And there are some amazing tips in this group. So first up, Gail Moody-Bird from LinkedIn. Gail, what is your tip?
My tip is that marketers should start experimenting with ChatGPT. I found it an extremely valuable way to get a first draft for content. It's not going to get you all the way there, but I think you'd be amazed at the first drafts that you get from it and the way it just becomes a thought starter and finds some really interesting points for you to integrate into something that you're already working on or thinking about.
I love that tip. I can't imagine not doing an outline without starting there. Awesome tip. ChatGPT, just be patient. Sometimes it's very busy. Okay, next up is Brian Law from Zoom Info. Brian, what is your tip?
If you're not sure if you want to gate content or not, an in-between is to drive your paid traffic into that gated content, but also have an index page so people can search for it. Because many times you'll find people go into the content, don't want to fill out the form, and will search, and if they can find it, you'll still get those people to come through and look at it.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because we talked about gated content. You know how I feel about it, and I'm not a big fan. However, I want to make sure that we understand when you say create an index page, that's just searchable, that exists, that's somewhere else on the website.
Yeah, so you could take that title, put it into Google, and since it's indexed by Google, you should be able to find it through search.
I got it. And you just go right by the gate, and particularly those will appreciate it. Okay, Jeff Morgan, Elements. Jeff, what's your tip?
On the gated content topic, I think that one of the things that's really worked for us is creating tools that provide a lot of value. And I think, Drew, you mentioned during our conversation today that the best way to tell if you should gate content is whether or not someone might pay for it. And so I think little tools that are like point solutions that are complementary to your product, but not part of your primary value proposition are a great way to drive leads and provide value along the way.
It's such a great reminder. I'm so glad you mentioned that one. I mean, HubSpot built its whole business this first year on all those little tools. And I think people forget about how valuable and useful those are and powerful content. Okay, Sherry Chin, Galileo. Sherry, what's your tip?
My tip is to make sure your content is easy to read and digest and consumable. People are inundated with tons of great content. And so you've got to catch their attention, pull out highlights to tease them and bring them deeper into your content and engage.
All right. We're going to make it easy to read, which is hard, by the way. So you need to be good at this. You need to be good at writing to make stuff easy to read. Okay. Jan Deal, what's your tip?
Funny, similar to Sherry, I was going to say visual content. You know, people have such short attention spans and there's so much noise. So charts, data, call out boxes. Yep.
Yeah, it seems like we're talking about bite-sized chunks. Okay, Noreen Galstian Sada, what is your tip?
My tip is to track your content, have the appropriate UTM codes. If you don't have it gated, it's even more important to track and see how your customers are engaging with the content, whether it's on your website or your blog or landing pages, to make sure that you're continually tracking on what is subject matter is important for your audience so that you can produce more value-added content and not waste resources on things that are not getting the response.
Yeah, I love that. And to the extent that you're really paying attention to what's being read or watched is so important. Okay, Katrina Clear, bring us home.
I would say if you want to know if someone's going to engage with your content, remember if. Make it interesting and make it fun. And if those things are true, you're more likely to get people to engage. So mix up your content types. B2B content and technical content doesn't have to be dry and boring. It can be interesting without being kitschy. So find your sweet spot and remember if, interesting and fun.
Interesting and fun. What a perfect way to remember. And if you are a B2B CMO who can share, care, and dare with the best of them, check out CMOHuddles.com. I'm Drew Neiser, and that's your Tuesday tip. Peace out.